I'm in Stockholm at the 14th Congress of the European Association for Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics at the end of the first Keynote lecture. Would you first of all introduce yourself, please?
Ottersen, that's my name. I'm the president of Karolinska Institutet here in Stockholm.
And today you were talking about Europe and how Europe can help with global health challenges. Perhaps you could start by saying something about the Lancet Oslo Commission.
Yes, that was a commission that I was in charge of. And it was established in 2011. And the whole idea was to look into what we can call the root origin of health inequities. And of course this had a global perspective. It was a global commission with commissioners from all continents. And essentially what we ended up with was a report that told us, and I hope others, in no uncertain terms, that the root of many of these inequities that we see in health today, they reside in the realm of governance, particularly global governance. We have a global governance system that is not really adapted to the challenges that we see in global health today. We have institutions that need to be changed, dysfunctional institutions. We are missing institutions in some fields. And very often we see, in fact, also that institutions that are designed to take care of the population's health, they are not allowed to do so because of trade agreements, because of other factors that constrain what we call the policy space for health. And also, of course, the commercial determinants of health are something that that we consider to be a major concern, that health very often is subordinated to economic goals.
And you mentioned, for example, difficulty in implementing health policy, labelling foodstuffs for contents and tobacco in terms of general health. Yeah. And thinking about this meeting, the clinical pharmacologists, what they can do, you mentioned that there are some issues, for example, with medicines, and you want to have medicines available, and yet there's some key challenges for the environment in terms of how these medicines are made.
Exactly. Of course, what is so fantastic about the Sustainable Development Goals is that they see all these challenges in context. They tell us that what we do in one sphere, in one sector in society, has impacts in other sectors. And now we see that when medicines are being produced, this has very often a negative impact on environment. And the GMP regulations do not, as far as I understand, contain regulations when it comes to environmental impact. And this is, of course, something that should be rectified.
And that fits in with the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly on responsible consumption and production. So these goals, would you say a bit more about the goals and how in particular medicines are relevant to the goals?
Yes, I would say that medicine enters into at least 14 out of the 17 goals, health and medicine. When it comes to clinical pharmacology, I would say that, of course, goal number 3 that relates specifically to health is important, but also goal number 12 that has to do exactly with what you say, responsible consumption and production. Consumption and production that do not adversely affect the environment. Also, I would say that clinical pharmacology has much to do with the overall theme of the Sustainable Development Goals. Nobody should be left behind. Inequity. And if there is one sector in society where we really see stark and unjust inequities, it's in the field of health and medicine. Access to medicine, even access to information about medicine, access to research papers within medicine. I mean, you see that these resources are so unevenly distributed in the world today. It's not sustainable.
And that really is a key role then for journals and other online resources to make the the publications and other policy documents available as widely as possible.
Absolutely, and you know, eacpt and other organizations like eacpt that really involves so many excellent scientists and health professionals. Such organizations, they have a strong voice in society. They could really help the stream of information to be of a much higher quality. They could get the society to pay attention to the fact that much of what is conveyed as truth on social media is nothing but fake news. And as I said in my lecture, it's really sad when you look at the figures. Most people, when they have questions about health and medicines, well, they go to the standard social media. The quality reassured PubMed receives very few hits compared to the social media at large.
One of the obvious challenges is that we're a global world, we have all the time zones, information passes so quickly now. Health professionals like to have the message correct, they like to take time to be sure and to have some sort of control, and yet that's not the real world. How do you think we can face the challenge of dealing with all this misinformation or changes in the story which end up with incorrect information being available to the
public? Yes,
public?
I think clinical pharmacologists could take a leading role in this particular arena. I mean, what is being done here in Stockholm with the WISE list is an example, I think, to really put efforts into not only collect information, but also to sort of be eclectic when it comes to the information, so as to pick out the information that really is reliable and that could pave the way for a reasonable and sound use of medicines. So the WISE list here in Stockholm is one example. It's driven, as far as I understand, by clinical pharmacologists. There are many ways to navigate in this field. The most important thing is to be aware of the problem. And I don't think that the society at large is aware of all the fake news and false information that is out there concerning medicines. And of course, this is not only a nuisance, it's dangerous. Many people, they set their own lives at risk by searching information in sources that are far from being reliable. And it's a matter of fact that lies spread much more efficiently around the globe than the real thing and than the truth. So unless we counteract this development, lies will always win. It's as simple as that.
And as a final question, to return to one of the key points that came out of your commission, there are restricting factors that if they could be removed would make life much easier in terms of healthier lifestyle generally and better access to safer medicines and better information. How do you think the different communities involved in the health professional world should be engaging with the policy makers, the governmental, the non-governmental, but also industry to try to persuade, encourage, change how policy is able to be implemented very effectively?
Well, I must say I'm optimistic. I think industry has understood that they must be a very, very important player when it comes to the sustainable development goals. Many of the top pharmaceutical companies, they have their own departments working on sustainability. I must say I've had so many interesting discussions with some of the most influential pharmaceutical companies over the past few years. Changes are underway. And I think that the business model that now will become the business model for all pharmaceutical companies will be a business model where sustainability issues are taken into account. So I'm optimistic. When it comes to the governance system, I'm less optimistic because, as I pointed out in my lecture, we have a global governance system today that is not suited, it's not attuned to the challenges that we see today. We have inherited, so to speak, global governance system from the days after the Second World War, and little has changed. So that is one of the things that we address in the Commission. How could we bring these complex issues that we are talking about now at the intersection between economy, social justice, environment? How could we bring these different fields together in a revised and modernized global governance system? This is one of the top challenges that we can see today. The Sustainable Development Goals are very much a set of goals that simply require a new way of thinking when it comes to governance issues.
On that key point, Ottersen, thank you very much indeed.